Never stop reading Bible. All right, let's jump right into the book of Genesis, to a story that honestly feels less like ancient text and more like a high-stakes family drama. This is a tale of two brothers whose lives go down completely different roads, but are still somehow critically connected. So, that brings us to the big question for this whole explainer. How on earth can a story packed with betrayal and, well, scandal end up defining the destiny of an entire nation? It sounds kind of crazy, right? But as you're about to see, every shocking twist here happens for a reason. So our story kicks off in chapter 37, and it's all about a young guy named Joseph. He is absolutely the center of attention in his family, but maybe not for the best reasons. This is where his big dream is about to turn into a total nightmare. So who is this Joseph guy? Well, he's Jacob's 11th son, and to say he's the favorite, that's putting it mildly. On top of that, he's having these wild dreams that his entire family is going to bow down to him. And, he's not exactly keeping it a secret. And that is where the real trouble begins. Look, this goes way beyond normal sibling rivalry. You've got this blatant favoritism, symbolized by that famous quote, mixed with his, let's be honest, kind of arrogant dreams. It's the perfect recipe for some serious, deep-seated hatred from his older brother. And that hatred, it doesn't just stay a feeling. It's about to boil over in a huge way. We're talking about a betrayal that's gonna completely flip Joseph's world upside down, sending him from a life of privilege straight into peril. You can see it's like a chain reaction, right? It all starts with the coat, this constant, flashy reminder that he's the special one. Then come the dreams, which just add fuel to the fire. The jealousy builds and builds until, snap, it hits a breaking point. They conspire and get rid of him for good, literally selling him to traders on their way to Egypt. And the cover-up is just brutal. They take that special coat, dip it in animal blood, and show it to their father Jacob. They let him believe his favorite son was torn to pieces by a wild animal. Can you even imagine? The lie completely shatters him, and as far as anyone knows, Joseph's story ends right there. But then the narrative does something totally unexpected. Just as we're on the edge of our seats wondering what's going to happen to Joseph in Egypt, the story slams on the brakes and takes this wild detour into scandal. And get this, it focuses on Judah, one of the very brothers who sold him. This pivot feels so jarring, doesn't it? It's like watching a movie at the biggest cliffhanger, and then suddenly it cuts away to a totally different character. Joseph's life is hanging by a thread, and boom, we're in the middle of this messy, complicated story about his brother. It feels random, but trust me, it's anything but. So in this chapter, Judah completely fails in his duty to his widowed daughter-in-law Tamar. So what does she do? She takes matters into her own hands. She puts on a disguise, tricks Judah himself, and ends up securing the family line by conceiving twins. I mean, it's a shocking series of events. And this brings us right to the heart of it all. Why? Why interrupt Joseph's nail-biting story with this scandalous family drama? Well, it turns out this isn't a distraction. It's actually the key to understanding the entire bigger picture. I mean, just think about the timing here. At the absolute peak of suspense in Joseph's life, we get this detour. It was placed right here for a very specific and incredibly significant reason that's going to shape the family's entire future. Okay, so here's the payoff. There are two huge reasons for this story. First, it establishes a critical family line. One of the twins from this whole mess, Perez, ends up being a direct ancestor in the line that leads to the great kings of Israel. That's a huge deal. Second, it's a moral snapshot. It shows us just how dysfunctional this family had become in Canaan, which sets the stage for why they desperately needed a change and to move to Egypt. So let's bring this all back together. You've got these two brothers, Joseph and Judah, on completely different paths. One's a victim of a terrible betrayal, the other's a perpetrator of some serious deceit. But their stories are really two sides of the same coin. And this really lays out their dual importance perfectly. Joseph, through all his suffering and his rise to power in Egypt, is the one who will ensure the family's physical survival when a huge famine hits. At the same time, Judah, through all his flaws and his mess, ensures the continuation of the covenantal lineage, that promised ancestral line. You see? You need both. Both are absolutely essential to the story. And all of this leaves us with a pretty powerful question to think about, doesn't it? How often do our darkest moments, the most confusing detours, or even our biggest failures end up shaping our ultimate purpose in ways we could never have predicted? Thanks so much for exploring this incredible story with me. I really hope it gave you a new perspective on these two pivotal chapters. Thanks for joining me for this explainer. This was brought to you by the Center Studio.